Finance Minister has urged public sector banks to boost deposits. Nirmala Sitharaman urging public sector banks to boost deposits via special drives altogether. Now, why is it crucial to boost deposits? What's behind the worst bank deposit crunch in 20 years? And can negative effects of declining deposit growth hurt the broader economy at large? To answer all of these questions, we are joined by Jayant Krishna, Senior Economist. Thank you so much for your time, sir. The first question, really, for those wondering, why is it crucial for an economy to boost bank deposits?
So, Sakshi, it's a pleasure being on this show. Frankly, let's understand first of all what a credit deposit ratio means. It typically means your total credits advanced by a bank divided by total deposits multiplied by 100, right? So that's what the ratio is. If you look at all banks put together, not just the public sector banks, all put together, then this ratio was, in March this year, in 2024 March, it was 75.8%, which means that the total credit they had advanced, all banks put together, were 75.8% of the total deposits they had in hand as of end of March. And this ratio has been rising, which clearly indicates that the credit growth is in a way outplacing the deposit growth. That is for all banks put together. Now, if you look at the same data for public sector banks, it's little more worrisome than overall banking sector, including the private sector banks. So for public sector banks, the government banks, it peaked to almost as high as 78.8% in December 23, end of December 23. It improved a bit and moderated at a level of 76.8%, at the end of March 2024. So it is surely matter of concern, because this ratio is a little more adverse for public sector banks than the overall banking sector, and surely with the private sector banks. So I think this is what the concern is, because the credit growth in the country, because of the overall boost in the economy, the entrepreneurs coming for bank loans and things like that. So overall credit appetite has grown, has picked up, but the mobilization of deposits has not really improved as much. And it is very, very important to have more deposits purely from a banking standpoint to fund the credit growth in a sustainable manner. Otherwise, you'll keep on increasing credit, extending more credit. And if the deposits don't happen, then that growth is not sustainable at all. So this is what the finance minister has been focusing on.
Right. So now those wondering, look, what's behind the worst bank deposit crunch in 20 years? Many saying that, look, alternate investment options are on the rise, such as SIP mutual funds. Your thoughts?
Hello?
Hi, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So I'm saying, well, what's behind the worst bank deposit crunch then in 20 years? Many saying that, look, alternate investment options like SIP mutual funds are on the rise. Your thoughts?
So, you rightly sense that, a lot of people play directly in the equity market. Those who want to be a little risk-free, they want to invest in systematic investment plan, mutual funds, and so on and so forth. So there are more options now, 20 years, 30 years back, anybody who wanted to put money safely into any investment, bank deposits used to be, the de facto gold standard, which is not the case today. So I think that's surely. And let me also understand, why is it that the deposits are slightly better for private sector banks versus public sector banks versus government banks? See, government, today customers have become, the account holders have become very savvy. They want the best of services, the best of customer centricity, which I'm sorry to say, but public sector banks have not lived up to that expectations. There have been some improvement in the customer centricity of government banks, but not as much as it's there in the private sector banks. Let me get a little personal here. My own investments, the fixed deposits. The fixed deposit part of my overall portfolio, I wanted to keep it almost half for the safety in the lead public sector bank, that's the State Bank of India, the number one government bank, that's a State Bank of India, and 50% of it, in the number one private sector bank, that's HDFC Bank. That's what I wanted to all my. But I can compare and contrast the service that I get in State Bank of India is far worse. I mean, you virtually go there with a begging bowl. When it comes to reinvesting your own interest, or you want to retire an FD and rebook at a higher rate of interest. It's quite a pain to. I mean, to be fair to State Bank, their services have improved than what they used to be 10 years back, 15 years back, 20 years back. But they have not kept pace with the way the customer centricity has improved in private sector banks. So I think that's another reason why this ratio is slightly more favorable in private sector banks as compared to public sector banks. I think public sector banks have to, and that's what the finance minister also said in this meeting with the PSB bank chiefs. That you have to improve your customer services. That's extremely important. So I think all these things and options being there, I think that's a reason why it also shows that there is a lower degree of customer faith in the bank deposits, in the fixed deposits. I think, but there is some difference between private sector and government banks, which is clearly evident from the data that I just shared with you.
Right. Now, for those wondering, okay, can negative effects of declining deposit growth hurt the broader economy at large then?
I think it does impact, because if the growths don't, the growth in deposits does not keep pace with the growth in credit, then where would the money come, and where would the banks get money to extend? Because the percentage of what they get in deposits is what they extend largely, as loans, as advances, as credits, right? So surely it's not if the deposits don't go up, then banks will either have to take soft loans, or banks will have to go to the government with the begging bowl for more equity infusion, or things like that, which doesn't happen every now and then. So I think it is very, very important. And imagine if the economy improves, if there are more FDIs that flow into the country, if the overall entrepreneurial growth is good, if startup ecosystem improves, all that will put more and more strain on banks to advance credit, to sanction and disburse credit loans. And if the what do you call it? If the deposits don't keep pace with the rate of acceleration in the credit being extended by the bank, then obviously it will not be sustainable, and which will be not a good thing for the economy overall, for the investment climate, for industry to grow, more investments to come, both domestic and overseas. I think it will have an adverse impact, and that's the reason she has focused so much on special drives, special schemes, greater customer centricity to mobilize bank deposits, and keep it at a high pace, as is the case with the credit, numbers.
Right, and finance minister also stressing on the implementation of a lot of budget announcements, stressing on the importance of a collaborative approach at large. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so the finance minister, in the same breath, she also said that the credit availability to the small and medium businesses and individuals, that's very important. She also mentioned that the credit access to citizens especially those who are at the bottom of the pyramid, to support their livelihood, that's very important. And more importantly, she mentioned about a new credit assessment model that she did mention in the budget speech also, especially for small and medium businesses, which is largely based, it's a twofold. One, that what they're talking about is you study the digital footprint and cash flows of MSMEs and small businesses, and use that to decide whether you have to about the creditworthiness of a particular loan application. And a lot of banks have resorting to external appraisals of loan applications. So she has talked about that the banks have to build in-house capacity to assess MSMEs before extending credit. So I think this new credit assessment, the new framework that she talked about in the budget, she's talking about that to see the light of the day, and banks have to develop that. And she's also talked about increasing credit flow to eligible beneficiaries under some initiatives like the Prime Minister's Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana, which is the free electricity scheme for leveraging the solar energy, and PM Vishwakarma Yojana, which is the skill development program of the government, she has talked about, typically banks, the tendency has been in the past, even with the public sector banks, that, go slow on these because they are never sure about whether they'll get the money back and so on and so forth. So she has emphasized that, these kind of loans have to be, this kind of a credit availability for these two schemes she especially mentioned. And she also mentioned, I think, about Mudra loan, which used to be, the limit used to be 10 lakh per beneficiary. She has extended that in the budget itself to 20 lakh, but not for all, but 20 lakh for those who had availed Mudra loans in the previous cycle and have also repaid the loans. For them, the new loan limit will be 20 lakhs. So, so all these kind of things, largely she's, her focus has been on, small and medium businesses, and those people at the bottom of the pyramid, that, you while you do work for your deposit mobilization, but don't neglect, these assurances given by the bank, by her in the budget speech, in terms of some of the beneficiaries, especially the MSMEs and individuals at the bottom of the pyramid.
Right. Thank you so much for decoding this for our viewers. And we will, of course, continue to track this as well as how the economy is performing at large. Thank you for your time.